All right, just sitting here, Joe Murray, a new week. I believe this is episode 38. Episode 38 of Just Sitting Here. It's been that long now. How many weeks I think it's been is probably, I'm not good at math, but that's a lot of weeks. 7, 8, going on 9 weeks. I don't know what it is. Anyways, we're here today. Of course, you guys can chat into the show, whether it's on Twitter or on Facebook Live. And of course, you can listen to all previous episodes on Spotify, YouTube, and on iTunes. Got a lot of good feedback from people saying they've been checking in over the last couple of weeks. So going to continue to do so and get away from anything that's happening in the world for the next half hour or so. And we're going to talk a little bit of sports here. My guest today is Doug Kyed. He's from Ness, and we'll bring him in just a minute. I know that there's a ton of other stuff happening, of course, here in the city of Boston. But, like, for a minute, let's just like get away from it for like at least a half hour, an hour. Like, turn the TV off and just hang out with us here on Just Sitting Here. So I will bring in our guest today. His name is Doug Kyed. He is from Nesson, and he's a Patriots beat writer. I've talked to him many times on 98.5 The Sports Hub. I wanted to shoot the breeze with him today about, some football. I know he's a big wrestling fan as well, and some other stuff going on in the world. What's happening today, Doug?
I'm doing all right. Yeah, it was an odd night last night. I had the news on for way too long, but no, it's good to concentrate on some sports for a little bit here.
Oh, something else for at least a minute here. Right. You got a pretty funky background. I might have to close this up. What do you got back there? I see a football at least.
All right, yeah, but I got a I think this is the Super Bowl 53 football right there. I've got a little Disneyland football right here. Got Springsteen. The River. I got a Beach Boys live album. All sorts of stuff going on here. Some like Tattoo Flash, some books. Yeah, it took a while to get this whole setup going, but I think I'm happy with how it looks now at this point.
Were you like outside Fenway the other night, like trying to get the Steen and the Dropkick Murphys? He's on the big screen. I mean, you could have watched it from home, I guess. So
I did watch some of it from home. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was it was cool to see the whole social distanced, all the Dropkick Murphys on different bases and everything like that. That was cool.
So it's one of those things with baseball writers, right? Like all the baseball writers love Bruce Springsteen. I don't know what it is for football writers though. Like I don't know if they have one.
Yeah, I think for like the older generation of football writers, it's probably still Bruce Springsteen.
Honestly.
But honestly, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question about what it is for football writers. I don't think there's like one specific thing like it is Springsteen for baseball guys.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll find out. That's something I'm gonna look into a little bit here. I'll talk to some of the other. I'll get Gasper in. I'll talk to Bedard. I'll start just banging on those guys' cages and be like, what do we listen to that? So Doug, I started this podcast because obviously we're in quarantine and I wanted to stay sharp and just kind of shoot the breeze with guys we work with and everything. And so we've been having some fun, and I'll throw one out at you right off the bat. Obviously you work over at Nesson, but if you could be quarantined with one person over at Nesson, who would that one person be?
It's a good question. I'm tempted to say, and this isn't just like me sucking up to my beat partner, Zach, but I would probably say Zach just because we've spent so much time on the road together that we're probably sick of, being with each other as much as we have, but I also know that we can survive together. Like we've survived together for, a week and a half long Super Bowls. We've survived together for week-long combines. We've had to, share hotels and do everything together. So I know that he would not drive me insane. He would not drive me on the brink of going insane or anything like that. Some other people might, like Emerson Latzia, he might drive me insane after a while. Some of the other people here on our desk, someone like, Jemai, who knows? He might drive me insane after a while. I just haven't spent as much time with those guys. Haven't spent as much time with Remy and O'Brien and Guerin. So I'm going to go with Zach. I wouldn't want to take the risk of doing that with anyone else.
I'm sure you guys get some road stories as well. Look at that. Look at that thing, huh?
There's my guy. There's my quarantine buddy right there.
Look at that beard, that wave of hair as well.
Right. No, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's and also I would say probably beyond my wife and 2-year-old child, there's no doubt in my mind that I've talked to Zach also throughout this quarantine the most, just based on doing, hour-long podcasts every week and doing the Zoom meetings that we have to go through all the time. So yeah.
Was it different for you? I mean, obviously, you'd go down to you go down to Gillette and you do these pre-draft meetings and everything. Like, how different has it been for you to get audio and talk to some of the players and I guess get more information? Do you find it easier because you're at home, or is it more difficult because you're not there?
At this time of year, it's probably been about the same. I know that that's the most boring answer. I would say, if anything, it's been a little bit easier because, like, I would prefer to have to go down to Gillette to talk to Devin McCourty or, one of the new guys that they signed, Brandon Copeland, something like that. But if you can do it at home in a WebEx meeting, then you don't have to do the 20-minute commute down, 20-minute commute back. There's no shooting the shit with the other beat writers, which takes another hour or so. So it's certainly condensed things quite a bit. During the draft, I would say that I wrote more than I've ever written during a draft, which has its goods and bads. I mean, in most of that, I would say, is that I wasn't distracted by other beat writers. I was just, cranking away here in the room with the draft on one computer, typing on another computer. So that's been another plus. And then the other thing too, I would just say, is that I've been able to be a little bit more creative. If I had been down at Gillette for OTAs and minicamp and all this stuff, then you get into the grind of just doing the same stories, talking to the same players and everything. But I've actually reached out to more college head coaches this way to get some information on UDFAs or draft picks. So overall, I mean, obviously we all wish that we could be out and about a little bit more right now, but there have been some silver linings as far as work goes.
I do want to ask you about a bunch of the draft players coming up in a bit. I watch a ton of college football. Maybe it's because I bet on it. I don't know, but I at least know who some of these guys are, the undrafted picks, and I like to get your input from talking to some people in college and college coaches, and I'll kind of give you my gambling take on it. But one thing I wanted to just tell you a quick story. I was on the day the match was happening with the Patriots. With Tom Brady. No longer with the Patriots, of course. And I don't know, as I'm talking about him, I'm like, wow, this TB12 stuff, it's all about him. And I'm trying to compare it to Peyton Manning and how Manning has, Nationwide and, Papa John's and all these other things. And it's always Peyton promoting something else, but Tom Brady kind of promoting himself. And as I'm like talking, I'm like, wow, I really have animosity. Like, I have this problem with Tom Brady that I didn't think I had. I mean, I was happy for him. Obviously, I feel like it was the Patriots that didn't want to go long-term with him. And he said, okay, I'm ready to move on. And yeah, he might've hurt their salary cap. But besides that, the match is happening. He sucks at the beginning. And all of a sudden he hits that putt, man. And I fist pumped so hard. I couldn't believe it. It's like in wrestling, right? Like all of a sudden, or in like a Rocky movie, all of a sudden it's like everyone starts just changing who they're cheering for. And here I am again, cheering for Tom Brady, trying to win on the last hole. And I don't know. I feel like I'm always going to be that way with Tom Brady now. Like, I'm happy for him. I like where the Patriots are going with it. And there's a lot of questions when it comes to that. But for you, are you over the Tom Brady thing, or is this still something you're always going to be writing some sub story for each and every week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to write about Tom Brady every week at this point, just because, quite honestly, like, covering him for however many years I did, you appreciate every minute of covering him, but at a certain point, you don't really want to write about the same Tom Brady story over and over again. And it's funny that I think that there is, for Patriots fans, there's some like letting go right now, where like deep down inside, there was some of that little bit of animosity of like, why is it always about him? And like, why did he do this and all that stuff? I think that that's natural right now to let some of that out. But like you said, I mean, when it comes down to it, when Patriots fans are going to be watching Buccaneers games next year, deep down inside, they're going to be cheering for Tom Brady. There's that first level of maybe like letting go, like I said, some of that animosity, but deep down, it's all going to be cheering for him. And I mean, for me, I'm certainly obviously going to be following him. That's going to be a fascinating subset of this NFL season, of just seeing how he does without Belichick and all that stuff. But I think that all that stuff is just natural when something like that happens. And it's, people our age have never really experienced anything like this. There's not that letting go of a long-term icon. And even for people older than us, like Larry Bird never went to another team. Ted Williams, all this stuff. Yaz didn't go to another team. So this is sort of the first time for a lot of people to see how everyone handles this. So that also is going to be fascinating to me.
Yeah, Bobby Orr did go to another team, but
Right.
it kind of didn't count. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
he was trying to make some money because his agent kind of hosed him down the line
Right.
throughout his career. But you're right about that. There
Like
hasn't
Paul
been.
Pierce did, but he wasn't on the same level, and it wasn't the same sort of ordeal, too. You know.
Yeah, and it was like to help the Celtics, and
Right.
he was like, they need to trade me because they really do got to get better. So it was understandable on when it came to all that. I do want to ask you this though. So I read an article last week, and it mentions who was it? Was it Tom or was it Bill? And I know the easy answer is both. It's the easiest answer going. But like, is this going to finally answer the question? Like if Brady does win, let's say it's 2 years and can win or be successful, or even Joe Montana go to an AFC championship game like he did with the Chiefs, that's a success if you ask me. But if Bill Belichick can do that with whoever at quarterback, I'm just wondering if we'll ever get the answer. Who was it, Tom Brady or Bill Belichick?
I think we might. I think that these next couple of years, however long Brady plays and Bill's willing to coach, I think we'll get some sort of clarity on it because, you'll already have the year where Bill had Matt Castle as his quarterback, and there's two ways to look at that. I mean, the Patriots went 16-0 the year before that, then went 11-5 with Castle. At the same time, Brady came back, then I think the Patriots went 10-6. So you can make the argument either way as to, how Bill did with Castle that season. But I think that whichever team does have more success, I think that might be more towards where people lean. But I also think that 10, 20 years from now, we probably just won't be having that conversation. Or maybe some people will. Maybe people who have been so deep in the weeds will still be having it. But I think overall, since Bill and Tom were together for so long, they're just going to be lumped in with one another. I don't think that it's overall going to be, it was this guy or that guy. It's going to be, okay, the Bill and Tom Patriots, essentially.
All right, Doug Kyed, he's from Nesson. He's joining us on Just Sitting Here, joining me, I guess. I keep saying us. I don't know how I do that. But yeah, well, I guess it is us. It's me and you here on a podcast. People can chat in. You can chat in. You can go on Facebook, just chat right in there, or do it through Twitter. If you have any questions for Doug, I know the mail Doug is something that's big, and we'll get to that in just a little bit here. I do want to get a little bit more about your story and how you got started in a second, but if you were a betting man, who would you say would be the quarterback opening day, and how do you think the reps will be handled once they can go back into the facility and pretty much once training camp starts up?
I actually would lean towards Hoyer taking the first snap of the training camp practice that we get to see, whichever first practice we get to see, whether that's mini camp or training camp. I think it would probably be Hoyer taking that first snap, but I'm only really probably 65-35 on that, since Stidham actually beat out Hoyer last summer. There's different ways to look at that, but that's the way that I view it. There's certainly the case to be made that Stidham would be the QB1, but I think that Bill Belichick might not want to put that immediate pressure on him. I would give around the same odds flipped, where Stidham is going to be the week 1 starter. I don't understand the premise of rolling with Hoyer. I mean, what's the difference between putting Hoyer out there in week 1 and then having Stidham go out there in week 4 or 5, or to just have Stidham be the guy from the beginning? You want to see what you have in him. So personally, I'd like to see as many possible reps as possible, to see what Stidham can do in the 2020 season, to see if he is the guy moving forward, or if the Patriots have to reset a little bit and move on to someone else. So I definitely lean towards Stidham being the guy. And a lot of that is due to the fact that he was better than Brian Hoyer last summer in the preseason and in training camp. Hoyer's stats were fine throughout training camp and preseason, but there was also a lot of checkdowns, and Stidham was not relying on those as much. Hoyer obviously has the experience. He might be able to handle pressure a little bit better. He might be able to get rid of the ball a little bit faster, but there's really no doubt in my mind as to who is the better pure quarterback between Stidham and Hoyer, and that is Jarrett Stidham.
So, Doug, when you get a chance, look into Stidham in his senior year and the talent that was around him at Auburn. It was not good. Because he had to take a year off.
Yeah.
He actually, if I remember, he played at Baylor. He was behind Seth Russell. Played well. I think he had like 13 or 20 touchdowns in like a certain amount of games.
He was really good at Baylor, yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously missed a year with everything that happened. Went to Auburn, but had Kerryon Johnson and a loaded team.
For sure.
All those guys went to the draft, and he still, played well. I know his numbers weren't great, and that's why he was essentially a 4th round pick. But like, I just look at what players can do without so much talent around them, and like that stands out to me. But the flip side of that is this: the Cam Newton thing is real to me. It's real. I know there was a report that the Patriots did their research, or at least their due diligence or whatever, and had a conversation with him. But I look at Cam Newton as the same guy that played in Carolina without those type of receivers, with Devin Funchess for years. And how many years did they have the same running back tandem there? And all of a sudden, Christian McCaffrey comes in. This guy was an MVP, played in the Super Bowl. I know he didn't dive for a football once, and people got on that, but like, he actually got the Lisfranc surgery. Like, a lot of guys haven't done that. I listen to Brady Quinn constantly on the radio saying how he wishes he got that surgery, didn't do it. But I have this thing about Cam Newton that if he's still out there, I feel like it's the Patriots are bust. I don't know where else he could go. And the reason why I say the Patriots is maybe they wait another year with Stidham. Like, I know they have all the salary cap space a year from now, but if they can get him for a 1 year, $5 million with incentives, like, to me, that's a hell of a bargain for a guy who hasn't played with much and has a good defense. Like, that might be a guy you want to rally around at least for 1 year.
I mean, I certainly don't disagree with that. I haven't given it much time or thought simply because I don't think it's going to happen. But I mean, if 6 months ago or 9 months ago or however many months ago you'd say, okay, who would you rather have, Jarrett Stidham or Cam Newton? It's like, well, duh, Cam Newton. And even going through some of this stuff with I've been talking to some Auburn coaches both about Jarrett Stidham and about Will Hastings, one of the Patriots' undrafted wide receivers. And I mean, looking at their college careers, there's no doubt who was the better player in college. Obviously, it was Cam Newton, and that's not to discount Jarrett Stidham at all, because I agree with a lot of your points about how he was much better as a sophomore when he had Kerryon Johnson, he had Brain Smith, and he had Will Hastings, and so not only did some of those offensive weapons leave for the draft, 2 of his receivers tore their ACL in March, and he didn't get to have them for his junior season there in 2018. So yeah, no, I think that the Newton thing, I'm not sure how real the interest is. But if you simply look at the talent between those 2 players, if the cost was exactly the same, yeah, you definitely take Cam Newton and you definitely take the risk on him. I think there is the question about whether, if he doesn't work out, if he's still injured, if he gets injured, if he's not fully healthy, then what does that do for the confidence of Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer? I'm not sure how much that even really matters. I think that, Stidham was a 4th round pick and he's still looking at himself as a 4th round pick. So bringing in a guy like Cam Newton probably wouldn't matter that much, but there's a lot of different elements there. I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. That's what I just keep coming back to.
I was on with Toucher and Rich this morning, and Jeff Howe was like, I got a straight up no, is what he said. But the conversation happened. And I mean, even Josh McDaniels has come out and said, he's probably not my kind of guy, but I feel like it's smoke. I memean, if Joe Flacco can get a job with a broken freaking neck,
right,
like, how is Cam Newton still sitting out there? I might be the guy who's banging the drum on the Cam Newton thing.
Yeah,
because I think he can play, and I know he wasn't sharp since he's played that Super Bowl. I just remember that game against the Patriots. It was like 2-3 years ago.
Right,
comes into New England and beat them. Like, he was solid that game, man. And like, I don't know, I just, the lack of weapons. I just think that he's a guy that I think could play well in that system, where Tom Brady, I think, struggled a little bit last year with that system.
Yeah, and I mean, Newton's stats were pretty good in 2018 too. He completed 67.9% of his passes, had a pretty decent touchdown to interception ratio. So, and obviously he didn't play well last year, but he was also dealing with some injuries, multiple injuries at that point. So, no, I mean, I still think he's got something left in the tank. It's pretty crazy to me. This is another thing. If you said 9 months ago that Cam Newton would be out of a job, you'd say that you were crazy. I mean, that's insane, right? He was an MVP in 2015. He had the Super Bowl and everything. So yeah, I mean, I still think he has the potential to be one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. Unfortunately for him, this all went down at the wrong time with the coronavirus and, the lockdown and everything, where he can't get the physicals that teams might want to have him go through. I don't know. I just hope it's a completely different situation, but I hope it's not a situation where he gets, blackballed from the league. Yeah, I'm not. Blackball is the wrong term for it, but I hate to see no one pick him up and then to see him just get kind of forgotten, because of the injuries he's gone through.
Yeah, I think he could still be a player. We'll find out. I mean, again, I did hear somewhere about a year ago that injury was really bad.
Right.
And maybe teams are sniffing it out and they're like, oh, this guy's not ready. And who knows? Maybe someone gets hurt later on. And after this, things settle down in the world a little bit. Maybe it becomes a little more clear.
I mean, if I were him, I might go to the Steelers or something. Who knows about Ben's health? If you can be the backup where a guy is also an injury risk, then you get your shot, and that's a pretty talented team. So I don't know if he can't lock on with a team like the Patriots where he might be able to be the starter. Latch on with someone where you're the backup behind someone who's injury prone, because that's his next best bet.
Maybe Pat Mahomes or someone like that.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe.
You could do better than that. I know they've had Matt Moore and they've had Chad Henne, but you'd think, you'd probably rather have Cam Newton than either one of those guys.
All right, he's Doug Kyed of Nesson. Doug, you've been on the beat for a while now, man. Are you from Massachusetts?
I was born in Seattle. I was born in Edmonds, Washington, which is a little bit north of Seattle, but I moved to Sharon, Massachusetts when I was 11. So I basically just kind of split my childhood between the West Coast and the East Coast. But yeah, I've been in the Foxborough area, the South Shore, for quite a while now.
You went from the grunge era of Seattle to whatever it is here in Boston, whether it was punk or whatever, emo pop punk for a long time here,
for sure,
in the area. Where'd you go? I don't know your story. So where'd you go to school and how'd you end up at Nesson?
I went to Emerson College. I graduated in 2008, and I was not a great student. I wasn't the best student in high school. Wasn't the best student in college. Didn't do all the right things by doing, extracurriculars and internships and all that stuff. I basically just played Halo with my friends and probably didn't take college seriously enough. But then my final semester, it was a summer class, because that goes to show how poor of a student I was. I had to take some summer classes to get my degree there at the end. I took a sports journalism class with John Rook, who's the Patriots PA guy, does some play-by-play and everything. And he had us do some really cool stuff, covering a Paw Sox game and all that kind of stuff. And it sort of let me know, okay, this is actually sort of realistic that I could do this for a living. So after that, because I wasn't taking college seriously enough, I wrote for my local paper. I wrote for some blogs, and I actually didn't get hired for a full-time job in journalism for 4 years until September of 2012, when I latched on with Nesson as a desk guy. So while I was writing for the Sharon Advocate and for anypatriotsdraft.com and all that stuff, I had some 9-to-5 jobs. I worked for a video editing company. I worked for a courier company. When I got out of college, and even during my senior year of college, I was touring in a hardcore punk band.
Wait, you played music?
Yeah.
What do you play?
I played guitar. And it wasn't it was a serious enough band where we were doing full US tours, but it wasn't a serious enough band where I was ever going to make money off of it,
This is so funny you're saying that, guy. It's weird. We're name dropping on a live stream here, but I one of my good friends was on an emo pop punk band. They're called Far Away and Stay the Night at one point, but a bunch of Walpole dudes.
Tiny was in that band.
Tiny gave me my nickname, Joey Murr.
That's hilarious.
Tiny was one of my best friends from Rosendale.
That's funny.
I grew up in Hyde Park. That's funny. So wow, here we go here on a live stream. Yeah, Tiny was great. I dabbled at music for a bit. That's how I got in the radio. Nice. Tiny would play he wanted to sing and play the drums. Yeah. But yeah, he was a good bassist. I know that whole crew, Larry and all those guys.
Oh yeah.
I knew all those dudes. But yeah, I used to go to the tour. I used to go to the armories and all those places where you guys would play, and he went on tour as well. And so that's so funny. Wow. Here we go. We're name dropping on a podcast.
When I was in high school, I used to play in pop punk bands, and I think we used to play shows with Stay the Night at the Norwood American Legion. Yeah. And
I used to go to those shows, man. Who knows? You could have been playing there.
Yeah, probably. That's hilarious.
That's so funny. Yeah, that's wicked awesome, man.
Yeah, no, that was a nice it was a fun little scene, the whole emo pop punk thing back then. But yeah, and then like I said, I was playing in hardcore bands. We did a few full US tours. I was also actually selling Yankee Suck shirts at Fenway and like Lucic Crew shirts and all that stuff at the Garden. That's like sort of how I was paying the bills in between going on these tours, because that was just a bunch of like hardcore kids who did that. The guys who started that were in like, mid 90s, late 90s, youth crew, straight edge bands and everything like that. So it just sort of continued on until when I was in college and when I was, out of college doing the same thing. So that's how we would pay the bills. I would actually like pay rent in like the Alston apartment that I shared with my now wife by selling, shirts at Bruins games or Yankee shirts at Fenway and everything. But that also sort of goes to show how seriously I was taking things directly out of college. But
it's funny you say that, man, because like I said, dude, when I got into this, I went to Connecticut School of Broadcast. I was one of these kids. Yeah, I played sports. Like I can talk on the radio. I got lucky. My teacher, my second day of class, was John Anik, who just happened to be the play-by-play announcer for UFC. You know what I mean? And we just got along. And you went to Emerson. I took voice classes at Emerson. I had a terrible Boston accent, and I was working with a professor there, and he's like, "Oh man, like we gotta work with you, kid." But the same thing, man. I hustled. I sold ads. Like that's hey, if I'm gonna do this, I gotta get in the door. And that's what people, they think you could just write a good piece, or like, hey, I got a good voice. No, man, you got to pay your dues. And then if they trust you, that's when they start giving you like opportunities,
I mean, I basically didn't have a life from like 2010 until, I mean, some would argue that I still don't have a life, but like basically when I was working at the companies I was working at, the courier company and the video editing company, when I wasn't working, I was writing. Like I was writing for either The Advocate, like I said, or I was writing for a blog or something like that. And other than my now wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, like I didn't see friends for years, I would say, because I had to be grinding so hard doing it. So I think in some ways, obviously, it would have been easier and faster if I had taken college more seriously and done internships and extracurriculars and, got a job right out of college. But I also think that I probably grind a little bit harder. I'm willing to do some more stuff because I did have to go through that and actually, put in all of the effort to finally get a job that was a 9-to-5 or a full-time job in journalism. So yeah, I wrote for the desk at Nesson for about 6 months or so, 5 months or so, September until January. I covered those 2 Patriots playoff games after the 2012 season against the Texans and against the Ravens. And then the following April, I basically got moved up full time to Patriots beat reporter. So
Jeff Howe was probably a part of that at the time, right?
Jeff had left in after the 2011 season.
Okay. Oh yeah, and then he went to the Herald. That's right.
Yeah, he went to the Herald in 2012, and then this guy Luke Hughes.
Oh yeah,
yep, covered the Patriots for a year in 2012. We were going to share the beat in 2013. We were going to have 2 Patriots beat reporters. I don't totally know what happened. But he fell out of the picture.
Here you were.
I ascended. And then we wound up going to 2 Patriots beat reporters after a while anyway, when Zach came on in 2016. But yeah, it was, I certainly didn't grind on the desk as long as some other people did, but those 4 years of grinding after college certainly make up for it.
Hey, the best ability is availability. Don't
exactly
fool you on that one. That's what it is. Dude, I could tell you so many stories about Stay the Night and like, meeting like the starting line and brand new. Yeah. And like they would just like let Tiny come on stage and like sing with them, and I'm like, I don't get this emo pop punk thing. Right. My friend seems to be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, exactly right.
But yeah, it was just, dude, I could tell you I could tell you stories all day. But yeah, so now you're at how long so you've been at Nesson for, you're gonna be coming up on 10 years soon, right?
Almost, yeah. It's like in September it'll be 8 years.
Wow, man! All right. Well,
yeah,
we have the same trajectory. So yeah, I've been at the Sports Hub for 8 years.
Right.
But yeah, I started at 1510. Like they just lost the rights to the Celtics. That. I was at 890, and all of a sudden it turned into a salsa dancing station. I went up to New Hampshire. Dude, I did financial radio because I wanted to stay in the. I did a sports show in the morning and then helped sell radio ads for like Howie Carr and stuff like that. Like I wanted to be in the business.
Exactly. You got to stay in one way or the other.
That's why I like doing this podcast, man. Everybody I get on, like you don't know their stories. Like it's
right.
We're just like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah. We hear him on the radio sometimes, or yeah, I see him once in a while, but it's like, there are some personalities here, man. There actually are some like good stories here. So I appreciate you sharing that one. And again, Little did I know, I just wanted the name
Right.
name drop, and boom, it's like, yep, oh yeah, I know that guy. Oh yeah, dude, I can tell you so many stories. So
I'm almost shocked that I immediately came up with Tiny's name too. I forgot Larry's name, but yeah, I mean, because I've been.
Colin was a hell of a drummer too, man. Like, they were good. And yeah, and like I said, I grew up with Tiny. I'm sure my friends are probably watching right now who,
Right.
who are going nuts about it. But yeah, I still talk to him. He came to my wedding, and yeah,
awesome.
I think he's still playing. But yeah, that was a time, man. And I always talk about music, like, I don't know, there was that butt rock era of like the 2000s, right? Like the Three Doors Down, whatever Chevelles of the world,
right?
And then all of a sudden, like, emo pop punk became a thing. Like, you could say Dashboard Confession, and everyone's like, oh yeah, but it's like, no, dude, like Newfound Glory, and like, and people want to even like mention Blink. No, man, this was like an Alkaline Trio, like, all this, and I liked Brand New. I still think that album is one of the best albums of all time. But like, I don't know, all of a sudden it just stopped. Like, where did it go? And then all of a sudden we got crap music. You know, it's just like, where did it go? I think about the music scene, like, man, we got that butt rock scene, the emo thing happened, and then I don't know, it all just slowed down. Like,
it got like almost too. This is gonna make me sound like a hipster or some sort of like douche or something by saying this, but like, it almost got too popular to the fact that it got like too poppy and then actually turned into pop music.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like Fall Out Boy or something, like Fall Out Boy started out as a bunch of hardcore kids who wanted to start a pop punk band, and they reached, the peak that they were going to reach by playing actual music that I would want to listen to. And then they wanted to ascend higher than that. And that's when they turned into, pop icons, pop sensations. I think that that's sort of what happened with it. There's still, some good bands out there. I like this band, the Menzingers, a lot. I like this band, Spanish Love Songs, a lot. But like the bands that actually sounded like those bands in, like 2002, 2003, they're few and far between at this point.
Yeah, I could tell you a story. One time got into it with the guitarist from the band Finch.
Really?
And let's just say, like, I'm 6'3", over 300 pounds, so like he was like a little tiny guy. It almost got physical.
That's
but I was like, I kind of like your music, man.
Right.
that was kind of how it happened.
Where was that? Like the Worcester Palladium or the Avalon?
Was it the Palladium? I'm trying to figure where it was, because one was at the it might have been at the House of Blues. It would
have been the Axis or the Avalon at that point.
Avalon,
right?
Yeah, there you go. I think it was at Avalon. At the time. Oh yeah, dude. I don't know where. Hey, want to go to a show tonight? Yeah, I'll go to a show. Like, that was and I just did not stand out in that emo pop punk crowd.
Not at all. Right?
Like, I didn't fit in whatsoever. He's Doug Kyed. He's from Nesson, hanging out on Just Sitting Here. So. One more thing about the quarterbacks, and I guess I'll ask first, were you surprised the Patriots did not draft a quarterback this year?
Yes, I thought they would at some point. I expected them to by the fourth round. I thought that it was either going to be, Jake Fromm. I thought that Jake Luton was a possibility out of Oregon State. I thought that, Jalen Hurts, if he had fallen a little bit, he would have been a possibility. So once they came out of the draft with 0 quarterbacks, I was shocked. Obviously, they signed the 2 guys, Jamar Smith and Brian Lewerke, and those are probably the same quality quarterbacks they could have had in the 6th or 7th round anyway. But for sure, I thought they were going to draft a quarterback. I thought it was basically a certainty going into the draft that they were going to take someone simply because they had cut Cody Kessler. They basically set it up where they needed a 3rd quarterback. So 100%, I thought they were going to.
So, and real quickly, I was too. Like, you mentioned Luton. Like, he's a big kid. Like, I don't know if they would have liked him, but he had a big arm and maybe somebody that could develop. Lewerke, to me, dude. Like, when I watched him, his 2017 year at Michigan State, he was good. Yeah, 20 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Like, you were like, wow. I think he almost threw for 3,000 yards. Like, they might have something here. I don't know what happened in 2018, but that team was terrible. Yeah. And then 2019, I don't know. And then all of a sudden the coaches leave. So I don't know if there was something there. He might be somebody that can surprise you because he played in a good program. Smith, hell of a season. Like this kid put up big, and again, playing in that conference, man, like you look at his highlight reel, dude's throwing downfield all the time. Right. I don't know how he transitions. I'll be honest with you, but he was good. Very good. He's only 6'1". Maybe Josh McDaniels likes that athletic ability. Right. Between the 2 guys, though, I think they might just be camp bodies. I don't know if any of them can break through.
Yeah, people have asked me if I think, one of them will make the 53. I lean towards no. I think they'll probably just wind up keeping 2 quarterbacks or pick up a vet if they want to keep a third guy. But I don't mind Smith on the practice squad. Lewerke's just one of those guys. It's similar to Nate Stanley, the QB out of Iowa, where like they have a good first season and then they just never improve. And if anything, they get worse as their career goes on. And I mean, watching Lewerke, I had watched him a little bit in 17, when Michigan State was a little bit better, but I hadn't watched him for a while. Putting on some of that 2019 tape was brutal. I mean, if you watch his game against Wisconsin, like you straight up wonder how this guy even got signed. And I don't mean to be, mean, because he actually has some decent attributes. He's got a really big arm. He's got good arm strength. And for his testing numbers, he's a pretty mobile guy too. And that's kind of similar to Jarrett Stidham, where those guys aren't athletes, but they aren't afraid to tuck the ball and run, and they can actually pick up some yards doing it. But his accuracy was all over the place. He basically, you had no idea where the ball was going when it came out of his hand. And he actually had, because I did the film review on him, he had a higher completion percentage on passes over 20 yards than he did from 10 to 19 yards. And I mean, that tells you basically all you need to know about him, is that if he was throwing an intermediate pass, you had no idea where it was going. If he was throwing a deep pass, there was a 50% chance it was getting completed. So he was just really all over the place. And I prefer Jamar Smith, but I also think that, coming from such a small conference, also the fact that he got suspended for 2 games as a senior at Louisiana Tech, which for, a senior captain quarterback, I don't know what the situation was. I don't think anyone knows other than the coaches and him and maybe some of his teammates. But that's a bad look to be suspended for 2 games, because they lost those 2 games, took themselves out of the conference championship equation. And if they had won those 2 games, probably would have won the CUSA. And they also possibly could have got in a bowl game after New Year's. So that was tough. I think that was probably one of the bigger reasons why his name wasn't mentioned more before the draft, because he looks pretty good on film. But if you're going to get suspended near the end of the season and really take your team out of that conference championship equation, that's tough.
He reminds me of a kid, Jordan Tiamu, who played at he played in the XFL this past year. I think he signed
Colorado.
Montez came from Colorado this year. I'm trying to think of, but Tiamu played in the XFL and
Ole Miss, I think it was, right?
Ole Miss, there you go. Yep. And he's like one of the better players in the league.
Yeah.
At quarterback. Yeah, like he reminds me of that type of guy. Maybe he needs a year. Had an off-field thing as well. Did get suspended for a couple of games. Maybe he needs a year or two to fill in there. But looking at the draft overall, man, like, I don't know, Duggar, you're gonna have to tell me more about him. But I'll just tell you, Josh Uche, when him and Winovich played next to each, like played on opposite sides, they were good. Like they were exploding. Anthony Jennings, I think we all know the story. We saw him on national television. Got hurt in that game. Like, just in fact, to play football again is a miracle. I think he can play. Devin Asiasi, man. He had a game against US. I bet on this game. He had a game against USC last year, dude. Like I was like, who is this guy? Like, who is that tight end? Towards the end of the season, man, he continued to get better and better and better. Dalton Keene, like, this guy's gonna do it all, man. I think they're gonna depend on him. I think he might actually run the ball out of the backfield. The kicker, I don't know about. I know he played at Rhode Island at one point. I read so much about this on Onwenu. Is that how I say his last name?
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Justin Herron, really good tackle at Wake Forest. Like, that was a team that threw the football. And Cash Maliua, that dude made so many big plays in college at Wyoming. I remember he had an interception against Hawaii because I stayed up late to watch the game. He's a badass. He's from Compton. So, and I don't know much about Woodard, but like, of any of these guys, and do you think any of them could make an impact this year?
I think that actually and maybe I wind up being totally wrong about this, but the one who I could see almost making a day one impact as a pseudo starter actually would be Anthony Jennings. I know he wasn't drafted as high as Uche, but you know what he is. He's a edge defender. He's an outside linebacker. He's a defensive end. You're probably not going to ask him to drop back too much, but he can do that. He's a really good run defender and a pretty good pass rusher. I could just see them being like, all right, he's our first and second down guy, or he can be, third down pass rusher, or he can do something on day one. Whereas some of the guys drafted higher, or the 2 guys drafted higher, Duggar and Uche, they're a little bit more projection based. I will say on Jennings, I like his game overall. I'm praising him. I think that he has a chance to be a day one contributor. That guy is slow as hell.
Like, yeah, I was gonna say, where does he play? Like, is he an inside? Like, is he Jawan Bentley? Like, what?
Can't be an inside line. He did that at the Senior Bowl. He played inside linebacker. The guy cannot run sideline to sideline. So you need him to be in, 10-yard spurts. He needs to be an edge defender. He can put his hand on the ground. He can be an outside linebacker. Like I said, he's smooth enough to move backwards in coverage if you need him to. But I do think that he could be, the strong side edge defender. He could be a guy who
at 260, he can do that, you think?
Yeah, I mean, Ninkovich was 260. I think that he's not going to be the end. He's not going to be, what the Patriots thought they were getting in Michael Bennett, but he can be that stand-up guy who can set the edge and pass rush a little bit. I don't love his game, but I think that he's the one where what his floor is, and that his ceiling isn't that much higher than his floor.
I didn't think that about him. I thought they'd play him at middle linebacker, but they need help on the edge, so maybe that's where he can play instantly.
That's my opinion on him. Just watching him at the Senior Bowl, he did play inside linebacker, and he just didn't look like he was the same player. I think that Uche, I think he'll be a guy who'll get opportunities on the outside and on the inside. I think that he does have that athleticism to translate a little bit more to inside linebacker, but it might take a few years. I don't know if they're going to want to do that right away with him because he didn't do that a whole lot at Michigan. But I think that he's just the more fluid athlete who you can move around and sort of be that chess piece a little bit out there. And with Ossie and Keen, I like both of those guys a lot. The one big difference I would put there, I think that both of them can be receiving threats. I think both of them can be blockers. Ossie is that more sort of lumbering tight end. He's athletic, but he looks like a tight end when he's running routes and catching passes. Dalton Keene moves like a running back. Like that guy is really smooth.
He was a quarterback in high school.
Right. Yeah. And he was a running back in high school.
Yeah, running back too, yeah.
He took some handoffs at Virginia Tech. Wasn't super productive doing it, but like you said, I mean, like you hate to use this guy's name, but when Aaron Hernandez was around in 2011, he was taking handoffs for the Patriots. I don't think that Dalton Keene is the same level of athlete as Hernandez was, but he's a bigger player. He's a better blocker. And I think that you can move him around a little bit more where you could put him at fullback. You couldn't put Aaron Hernandez at fullback, but you can put him at halfback. You can put him at fullback, H-back, tight end, flex tight end, slot. He can almost do it all in the Patriots offense.
So we're getting excited about we are talking tight ends,
right.
But like Ossie, I'm telling you, the comparison, and I kind of liked it, was Algie Crumpler.
Oh yeah,
we saw him towards the end, but he had some good seasons with the Falcons.
Yeah,
but dude, I'm telling you, the last 3 games of the season, he stood out. He lit up USC, and I was just really impressed. And I think he even played in a bowl game. I don't know, actually, did USC make a bowl? I just remember the last few games.
He might have.
Yeah. He truly stood out. But they're gonna call the kid Keen Rambo.
Yep.
So watch out for this one, man. He's gonna play everywhere, and we'll be excited about it. And I know it's hard not to get excited about offensive linemen, but Dante Scarnecchia had an article in the paper this week. He's enjoying retirement. He talked about the young coordinators that are there. Do you think that's going to be an issue this year? And there was another article yesterday I read that maybe one of the most impactful players in football will be David Andrews this year. Do you think that kind of helps some of the holes they had last year?
Well, if everyone stays healthy, I think they'll be okay. I have faith in Carmen Brasillo and Cole Popovich. They won't be Dante Scarnecchia, but I also don't think they'll be Dave DeGuglielmo. I haven't said that one in a while. Gooch, there we go. Who was, rotating offensive linemen and trying to reinvent the wheel over there. I think that they learned from Scar. They can't be Scar, but they'll be as close as they can to what Scar used to do. But if everyone stays healthy, I think they'll be fine. They could have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, with Andrews and Tooney and Mason and Wynn and Cannon. If anyone goes down, who the hell knows? I mean, their backups are basically complete unknowns at this point. Jermaine Illuminor barely played last year after the Patriots traded a 4th-round pick for him. Corey Cunningham barely played after they traded, a 6th or 7th for him. They've got Yadni Kajust, who didn't play last year as a rookie. They've got Yelda Froholt, who didn't play last year as a rookie. They've got these 3 rookies who, they might have upside on Onwenu, Heron, and Woodard, but I don't know what they can do in the NFL. They have basically no proven veteran backup at any position, which I don't know how that's going to go. Maybe they wind up signing someone. Maybe they bring back, I know it's not the sexiest name, but maybe they bring back James Ferentz just in case David Andrews can't stay healthy. Maybe they try to bring in some guy like that. If they don't, sure, that group's got a lot of upside. I like Kajust. I like Frohold. I like the rookies they brought in. You just don't know what they are. So if they do run into any injuries, then suddenly you don't have Scar coaching these guys up. You've got Popovich and Brasillo, who I think they can be decent offensive line coaches, but there's just not that same certainty where you used to have Scar coaching them up.
You think Cannon retires? I know he's got a pretty good payday.
I don't think so. Because there was that rumor out there. It was some like random Twitter user. This is a funny story where like he started that rumor. Then I reached out to like my sources around Cannon. They told me, no, that's not happening. So I tweeted out there that, Cannon's not retiring. The guy who initially tweeted it out got like real butthurt about it. And like mentioned me on his Instagram account, challenging me to a debate. I don't even know what this debate would be over.
Like old school,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Up on podiums in a high school auditorium or something like that. And like I don't know, I didn't really pay it that much attention. I just like deleted it from my Instagram or whatever it was. But I just thought that was really funny that this random guy was like challenging me to a debate over whether Marcus Cannon was going to retire. But everything I keep hearing is that Cannon's not going to retire. He hired a new agent this offseason, so that's another tell that he's not going to. And yeah, he's got a good payday, and there's really no reason why he should retire.
Yeah, we have somebody sending in a note here. Ferentz sucked in one game he played. The guy who killed, and listen, Ferentz is his old man, okay? That's got a lot to do with that. Right. And my buddy Mike Flynn, I don't know if he gets a tryout with the Ravens if Ferentz wasn't with them years back. So let's easy on my guy Ferentz over there, who had to deal with Stanley for a bunch of years in Iowa, who had a pretty good team. But where I'm going with this, Bob Wofford's the guy that got let go from the NFC and from the Saints. I don't know if they want to go like old Pro Bowler. They did it with Brian Waters like years ago, and I haven't even thought of that name in so long. Brian Waters.
Right.
I wonder if he's like a Hall of Fame. It's gonna be in like a Hall of Fame or whatnot. Yeah, like when they talk about Patriots that could go to the Hall of Fame.
Right. Yeah. Forget about Brian Waters.
It just goes like, that 1 year. He sat out that whole entire season. I don't know.
The Brian Waters locker. I remember like checking Twitter back in 2012 and like Greg Bedard and all those guys would be like, Brian Waters locker is still empty or whatever it was.
It's so funny now when you go there, everything's going to be there. Like, is Brady's locker still going to be there? Like, you're probably going to write a story one day. Right. Yeah, so it looks like, Patrick Chung, he's got Brady's locker now.
Right.
Like Patrick Chung, by the way, who just I know he had a little thing in New Hampshire, live free or die. Okay, live free or die. But like gets the restructured contract after a restructured contract, let go, and then comes back years ago. My thing with him, dude, like he's so good and he's so valuable to the team. But I was there, sitting there. I was in the stands. I got section 236 season ticket holder. Third down, Tannehill back to pass, and Brooks is covering a receiver, and they get beat for a third down, and that was it. Really, that was it. Yeah. And you can't have Brooks out there, So I don't know. Tell me about Duggar. Like, what's the deal with this kid, Duggar? I feel like he got hurt a lot playing in Division II. That's kind of what I've read about him.
Yeah, he missed, I think, almost half his senior season. He's an older prospect too. I think he was at Lenore-Ryan for 6 years, which like brings up that Tommy Boy quote. A lot of people go to college for 7 years.
Herbie Hancock, whoa,
right.
6 years? Like he didn't even go like some other school then transfer there? Wow.
He redshirted his freshman year, either his freshman or sophomore year, and then he also had a medical red shirt. So he was there for 6 years. I think he's going to be 24, or he is 24.
That happened to Case Keenum, I think. He was like
right.
1 year in college. He's still playing in the NFL though.
Yeah, no, exactly. Duggar played mostly free safety at Lenore-Ryan, but I think he'll probably be more of a strong safety in the NFL. He's a bigger guy. He's like 6'1", 220. Against the Lenore-Ryan competition, the guy looked like a linebacker. Like he was way bigger than everyone else. I think that he could bulk up a little bit and play that Patrick Chung type slot role or type strong safety role. the one thing that I'll say about him is that Patrick Chung has the versatility to play strong safety and the slot and a little bit of that hybrid linebacker. I remember years ago, he covered T.Y. Hilton for a game. He could play against shiftier guys. Duggar is similar in that he can probably play a strong safety and linebacker. I don't see him playing in the slot, but I do see him potentially being able to to play some free safety. So in those, two cover two looks where Devin McCourty and Daron Harmon used to be back there, I think it could possibly be Devin McCourty and Kyle Duggar now at this point, playing in that cover two with two deep back there. I think he can cover tight ends. I'm not sure if that's going to be his role or, Joejuan Williams, but he was really good at covering tight ends at the Senior Bowl when there were some pretty good tight ends down there as well. So I don't know. I like him, but he's coming from a D2 school. And like you said, he was injured during his senior season. So there's a lot of projection there, especially given the fact that he's probably going to have to change positions. He was more of a free safety, and he's probably going to be more of a strong safety with the Patriots.
I feel like remember Laurent Landry?
Oh, yeah.
What was his name? He played for the Rams, I think, in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. I see him as just this, like he wants to play linebacker, but should be a safety. I heard he can. I heard he can play a little special teams too.
Yeah.
So.
He can return punts. He returned 6 punts for touchdowns at Lenoir-Rhyne. Once again, Division II, but there's actually been some decent returners who have come out of D2 and FCS recently. Who's the guy in the Saints who went to like Assumption?
Oh, yeah, went to Assumption College. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember this little speedy guy. I remember.
Right.
All you ever hear about is, he went to Assumption College. I'm like, he's like, why can't the Patriots find guys in their backyard like that? So a couple more Patriots things, and then we'll kind of get into some football stuff. So Julian Edelman, he's back. He's going to make $6 million, the biggest bargain in the league. Yeah. Is there obviously? Do you think he's going to be like strictly a slot receiver? I remember last year they wanted to move him around a little bit, and it didn't end up working out. But I look at the wide receiving core right now. Like Sanu, I'm still down on, but he has to be better. And who knows? He could get cut in the final year of his deal. You never know. Jacoby Myers, I like. He's slow. He's so slow.
Yeah.
And there was a play against him in the playoffs last year where if he had that extra burst of speed, he might have broke it. But overall, like I look at the wide receiving core, I'm not impressed. And then I think about who could be a slot receiver of the future. You got any names in mind?
Yeah, I mean, they've got a pretty good class of rookies and undrafted guys. The first guy to mention would be Gunnar Olszewski, just because he was on the team last year. I know that he was kind of a joke because he was a D2 corner who moved over to wide receiver, and he's got the quickness to play slot. I don't know if it's going to translate in year 2 for him. Beyond that, Will Hastings, who was Jarrett Stidham's slot receiver at Auburn, I really like him. He's super undersized. He's like 5'10", 5'11", 175, but he's got great quicks. He was another one who he might have been in college for 6 years too. I think that he started his Auburn career in 2015, but then beyond that, Jeff Thomas, speedster out of Miami.
I love him. But again, he had some issues in college. He's a true speed dude. If he could be right, he's T.Y. Hilton.
Well,
I just don't know, man.
I mean, like he really could be. And I think it was my buddy Zach Cox from Nesson who brought this up, that Jeff Thomas has the potential to be the best Patriots rookie this season, like out of the entire class, because he was the number 5 wide receiver recruit coming out of high school. Yep. He was the only guys above him, I think, were Judy, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and someone else. He was ahead of Ruggs though, and he was ahead of CeeDee Lamb coming out of high school. The thing with him though is that he almost got kicked out of Miami after his sophomore year.
He couldn't even go back next year. Like he had to go to the draft this year.
It took Manny Diaz to bring him back, but Richt was going to kick him out of Miami. It took the head coaching change to bring him back. He was going to go to Illinois, I think. But then even after Manny Diaz brought him back, he was still suspended for 2 games last season. Yep. So like there's some, and the problem there is it doesn't seem like it's really off-field criminal issues, anything like that. It's that he gets in arguments with coaches. He might not practice as hard as he should. So you're going to find out real quick in New England if that's going to be a fit or not, because obviously Bill Belichick isn't going to deal with any of that stuff. The other thing with him is that I know he had a hard upbringing and everything like that, but he was the best player on his high school team. He was a 4-5-star recruit, whatever it was. He was Miami's best recruit. He was Miami's best player. He was Miami's best receiver. He was always that star who I think could always feel like he could be above everyone else and that he could kind of do whatever he wants. He's coming to New England as an undrafted free agent with $2,500 guaranteed. So this is either going to be a wake-up call for him or he's going to, bust out of the NFL. But he definitely has the highest potential out of the entire undrafted class and probably better than guys who were drafted like Doug Kyed and some of those other guys.
So the kid from what is it? Where did Khalil Tate play? Am I thinking what school is that? The kid JJ, the running back?
Arizona.
Arizona. Okay, sorry, Arizona.
Yeah.
Hell of a year, 2 years. Him and Khalil Tate were like a duo, man. Like right. They were just which one are you gonna stop today? They do that, I'm trying to think of the offense that they ran, but like I couldn't tell which one was gonna get the football at times. Like it was scary. He's tiny, he's small.
Yep.
But those kind of guys I think they like. Now he's not Ralph Webb, but he could be a Dion Lewis type.
Oh yeah, I mean he's that guy. He's that Ralph Webb. He's that Nick Brissett, who every Patriots fan's going to fall in love with in preseason because he's going to rack up 1,000 yards during the preseason. But I do also think he's better than those guys. The biggest thing though is his size. Like you said, he's 5'5", 185 pounds. I did some like deep dive research into this. He is the second shortest player in NFL history. Wow. There was a running back in the 1920s who was 5'1". JJ Taylor measured in
5'1".
5'1". I think he played for 2 games. It was like he was like the really short baseball player who played for like 1 at bat, something like that. It was like, I think it was, they were trying to get some fans in the stands or something like that. But JJ Taylor measured in at 5'5" and a quarter inch at the NFL scouting combine. Trendon Holiday is the only other guy who's been 5'5" and a quarter inch at the NFL scouting combine. So, there's been a lot of good running backs under 5'7". You've got, like you mentioned, Dion Lewis is a guy. Jacquizz Rodgers had some good games in there. Darren Sproles is probably the best example of it. Who was the Jaguars? Jones Drew was a shorter guy, but the weight too might be a problem. 185 pounds. He does have some similarities to Dion Lewis, though. Their athleticism was really similar. Their testing numbers were really similar. So I like him. I can't wait to watch him. I hope that we get a preseason and a training camp and all that stuff, just so I can get a chance to watch the guy, because he was really good at Arizona. I think that if he was a little bigger or had a little bit more straight line speed, he would have got drafted.
He did not play well last year because they kept switching the quarterback.
Right.
They like, is Khalil Tate going to play? I swear that team, like at times they'd play great and then they would just be no shows.
Yeah.
And we know that Tate was in the Heisman conversation all the time. I just feel like in his last year he couldn't get the ball rolling.
Yeah, he wasn't as productive. Yeah, for sure.
But I don't think it was a talent thing. I just feel like game plan. I don't know. I feel like Belichick looks at guys like that.
Oh yeah,
like Ben Jarvis Green Ellis was like a guy like that, and SEC. I mean, he used to always pluck those kind of SEC guys, but I don't know. I just there's a few of them that were undrafted this year that I'm like, hey, kind of like that guy. I know who that guy Hastings you mentioned too. Like,
yeah,
there's some guys here that could be good fits.
Their undrafted class was probably more exciting than their entire day 3 class for sure, because it's a bunch of skill guys. It's like we were talking about. It's Hastings and Isaiah Zuber is another one, the wide receiver out of Kansas State and Mississippi State. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, their undrafted class is really exciting. Like I said, you were mentioning going in the locker room earlier. Who knows if that's even going to be allowed this year? I mean, seriously, I just hope that we get to watch training camp this year.
Yeah. I wanted to just throw a crazy scenario at you and then ask you about the rules. And there was a bet about that going on in the NFL that's crazy. But all right, there's this scenario out there that Jimmy Garoppolo will come back to the Patriots at some point. Whether he plays this year and then the contract and the Patriots have all that money and then it's a 1-year wonder, whether it's Hoyer or whatever. What percentage do you think that could be real?
It certainly better than 0. the chance that he plays on the Patriots at some other point in his career, I would honestly probably set that at like 25%. Like, I feel like it's like
not bad.
I honestly think it's like relatively high, maybe even higher than that, just because, if Belichick's still around when he's like a late career guy, he brings back a lot of guys. He brought back Jamie Collins. So Brian Hoyer's been here 3 or 4 times at this point. So especially for a quarterback, I also think it's possible, simply because there were those rumors about the 49ers either, going after Cousins or Brady this offseason. That tells me that they are not 100% committed to Jimmy Garoppolo. I think it would probably take Garoppolo struggling this season for them to give up on him after this year. But there's always going to be that doubt in Jimmy's mind about whether he's actually the guy in San Francisco, simply because they've been tied to these other quarterbacks like Brady and Cousins, all these guys. And, they won't be available because they just signed Cousins to a new deal and Brady's in Tampa Bay for 2 years. But who knows? I mean, if Jimmy struggles, if the 49ers have that Super Bowl hangover this year and they go 7-9 or something, I would not be shocked if they decide to part ways with Jimmy Garoppolo.
I like it. I'm always going to keep that one out there. If you have a cutoff time, let me know if you got to go. I just got a few more for you.
I'm good for now. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I'll throw this one at you. The Buffalo Bills, obviously the favorite. Well, actually, the Patriots are still favored to win the AFC East, but a lot of money is going to come in on Buffalo this year.
Yeah.
And most of the bets coming in for MVP are on Josh Allen. Right now, 50-1 odds. I got crazed today on the radio because I was like, hey, I'll put $25 on it, whatever. How many times have I put $25 on something just to do it and I've lost? Right. And then I look at the MVP list and I'm like, oh shit, man, this ain't gonna happen. But could it? Do you believe in the Buffalo Bills? Like, do you think that they could supplant the Patriots this year?
I believe in them just because they were pretty good last year. I mean, they made the playoffs last year, and you take Tom Brady out, you take Kyle Van Noy out, you take Jamie Collins out, and the Patriots team probably won't be as good as they were last year. I mean, that's just the facts. So can the Bills then take the next step forward and actually win the AFC East over the Patriots? I think it's going to be tough. I think that the Dolphins also will be better than people think. I think the Jets have a chance to be better than people think. I don't have a lot of faith in the Jets, but it's going to be a competitive division. So I don't think it's certainly a runaway that the Patriots are going to win it. I personally don't like Josh Allen a whole lot. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I think a 51 odd on MVP is a fine bet to make, but he's just never been an accurate quarterback, and he's not Lamar Jackson with his legs. He's a decent mobile quarterback. He's a good runner, but he's not that next level runner where I don't think that he could get – I just don't think he could get the stats to get MVP. I think it's possible. I think that if he leads his team to a 12-4 record, then yeah, maybe there's some, there's a realm of possibility that he could win the MVP. But I don't know if he's going to win the MVP with 700 rushing yards and a 59% completion percentage. It's just like, I'm not sure if the pure stats would be there for him.
Yeah, I might get my $25 back after hearing that. NFL rules, you feel anything different? Could it impact the Patriots at all?
Not really. I sort of wish the onside kick thing had gone through. I mean, I understand why people didn't like it, but it would have just like thrown a wrench in the NFL for a season and would have been sort of fun. They passed the Belichick loophole where you can't take time off the clock. I think that was smart, but I don't know. I'm never that invested in the whole NFL rule change thing. And I don't know why that is about me. I can just never really get that fired up about it, really.
All right. And we'll get into some fun stuff. Just one last thing. I was reading on Nesson, actually.
Yeah.
That obviously there's new documentaries coming out about the Patriots. We know about the docuseries with Tom Brady. I don't know what we're going to get out of that. But what's this documentary that's coming out with the Patriots? Is it about like last season? And I know somewhere from some previous Super Bowls as well, but like another Patriots documentary? Like we had one on a stolen jersey. Like there's been too many of them. Like, what are we going to get out of these?
I actually agree. And I agree. Like, I even agree about the 9-part Brady docuseries is just that, like, I don't know, maybe we're too invested. Like maybe we've seen too much. Maybe we watch everything. So maybe there's an appetite for this sort of stuff outside of New England. But yeah, I mean, every time they win the Super Bowl, we get a new do your job documentary. We get all the DVDs and the Blu-rays. Like, I do wish that they would just wait 10 or 20 years until we get something like this, so that there's actually an appetite for it again. Because personally, for me, I know I'm deep into the weeds on this stuff. This is my job to do this, but like, I'm not dying to watch another Patriots documentary myself. And if anyone would be, it would probably be me. So I don't know. I think it's a little bit too much. I wish that they would wait on some of this stuff.
I don't even know what they can come up with.
Right.
Unless we're going to find out what happened with Malcolm Butler in the Super Bowl. Like that kind of stuff.
And,
like WWE's throwing.
That's not even that interesting. So,
and WWE is like throwing out, hey, look at this Sting lost tape, and it's versus Big Boss Man when he was Bubba. Like, what this lost tape shit? This isn't good. I got nothing. The only thing I got out of that thing was the Macho Man. Like, ooh, Sting, he's my friend, man. Yeah, right. Like that's all I got out of that. Speaking of wrestling, it's been a rough year for WWE. Very rough year.
Yeah,
no Mania. The dark side of the ring has put Vince McMahon in a hell of a thing. The XFL went under. Yep. Who knows? He's trying to go bankrupt and buy it back. I mean, I guess that's a smart thing. I didn't get a chance to go to Mania, and I go every year. Yeah. And now there's no SummerSlam in Boston. I'm all pissed off about that. Wow. And AEW is kicking ass. Like I loved. I watched the Stadium Stampede. That was great. And now Mike Tyson's now in the mix, which is probably going to go up against Chris Jericho. But like I want to get the Doug Kyed state of the wrestling address here on how you're feeling about everything.
It is bad for WWE right now. I mean, like. For years, me and my friends would watch every Monday, and I'd sometimes tune into SmackDown and everything. I could not tell you when the last time I watched WWE is at this point. And I mean, it was probably WrestleMania, actually. I watched the 2 nights of WrestleMania, but between the no fans thing, which certainly isn't helping them out that much right now, either, it's tough. Yeah. I mean, I didn't go to WrestleMania, but we went to the WrestleMania events when it was in New York, which was fun. But no, I mean, I think they've got some serious competition from AEW. And I think that, I don't want to keep bringing up the pandemic and everything, but I almost think it resets everything to some degree where so now WWE hasn't been able to have an event in an arena for how long at this point? Months? Who's going to be interested in going back once they can have those shows again? And will AEW actually be able to have the same size crowds as WWE? Because this almost kind of evens the playing field right now with everything just being on TV, with WWE not being able to run house shows, without being able to, get other ways of getting fans in the building. I'm certainly very interested to see how everything goes. And one thing that just a broad thought on wrestling, because I was much more invested in wrestling compared to now in, the mid 90s, where it was really the dark ages for WWE, but that was sort of my favorite era as being a kid. Everything moved so fast. Like you think about Lex Luger when he was at his peak.
The Lex Express.
It was like a year and a half. It was like he was the biggest guy in the company for a year and a half. Yokozuna had like a 2-year run. Guys, now, I mean, Seth Rollins has been at the top for almost 10 years at this point. Like, I think that there is some value in turning things over faster. And I think it's more difficult to do that now without all the territories and everything else. But I do think that there was some value in having guys turned over faster and then going to another company for a little while and then coming back, or going to Japan for a little while, then coming back. It just is a little bit stale when these guys are essentially on 10-year contracts. They never go away and they never come off the main event. I think that there's obviously some value to it, but I also think that, I could tune into wrestling now and everything's going to be the same as it was when I tuned in 2 years ago or a year and a half ago or whatever it was.
True. Now, then, now, and forever, I guess, is their big thing. I'll say this: AEW is a way of putting on an entertaining show with no crowd, where WWE is struggling to do that. Yep. And I think it's because of their young talent and the fact that, like, Baron Corbin makes a slam and then goes to the fans and there's no fans, right. But that's all he has. Plus, they don't have these shows on the road to build the storylines. They're getting better. They're getting better on promos, but having the brand split in NXT and stuff too. Like, if they put all those stars on one spot, it'd be difficult, but you'd have a lot more turnover. Yeah, that's for sure. And the Mike Tyson angle, like with AEW, I like it. Yeah. But the only thing that AEW does is people will knock on them and say, "Oh, all these WWE guys are coming to AEW," but these guys, I think the WWE guys are going to help put over the young talent. Like Matt Hardy, he's going to continue to do so. Even Cody Rhodes said when he won this TNT title, he's only going to face people that are AEW guys, not former WWE guys. So somehow they're a draw where the WWE is not. And I don't know.
I think part of it, sorry to interrupt, I think part of it is that the AEW guys just have more versatility and experience. I mean, you mentioned Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin came up through NXT, through the Performance Center. He was only ever taught play to 10,000 people, play to 10,000 people. Yep. This is how you play to 10,000 people. This is how you wrestle for 10,000 people. This is how you wrestle for TV. Guys like Kenny Omega were, wrestling in American Legion halls. They were coming up through the indies. They've been to Japan. They've, probably wrestled for 5 people before. Baron Corbin's, other than his training, has never done that before. So they just know how to do things a little bit differently. I think that they knew how to adjust a little bit better to a situation like this. Chris Jericho's another guy. I mean, he came up through Stampede Wrestling and he's been everywhere at this point. He's basically wrestled in like every single possible federation that he could. So I think these guys they were more adjusted for it. And for WWE, I think it was smart to bring them up through the Performance Center and bring them up through NXT and to build them up as they did. But they weren't prepared for this at this point because they only knew one way to wrestle. And like you said, I don't think it's working that well at this point.
It's not. And there are other guys like Lance Archer was in WWE. He's going to be a huge thing. Did not work out.
Right.
There's a lot of guys that didn't work out in WWE and not even big names that eventually going to get over big. And I'm into this Tyson thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
He couldn't rip the shirt. And now I'm starting to think because The Undertaker came out this week and mentioned something about that 91 when he won the championship and he tombstone Hogan and said, "Oh, my neck, brother." Hogan won the title again on that Tuesday. Like, I'm starting to wonder, did he have shirts that ripped easily? Like, because Tyson had a problem the other night. Like, yeah, and I know he's 50, but I don't know. I just wonder. I know he had the pythons and everything. Like, I have a Hulk Hogan picture in front of me, ripping the shirt, literally. But it just makes me wonder: are the Hulk Hogan shirts made to rip?
I think they were. I'm gonna say it. I think they were like the old like breakaway jerseys back in like the 80s in football. Obviously, it wasn't that. It wasn't mesh or anything. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I was when I was like a 10-year-old, I was not Hulk Hogan size or strength. But I mean, I'm sure we all like tried to rip our shirts when we were kids, and like, never did anything. We basically just like stretch out the neck a little bit. But you need some help. You need like a little cut there or something.
Yeah. I'm a big man. When I wear a sweatshirt, it chokes me a little bit. So I go raw, and I just that's how I rip it. A few more here for you, Doug. So you've been on a baseball kick, it looks like, as far as movies go.
Yeah.
What have you been watching?
So I've been Field of Dreams, The Natural. I've Rookie of the Year, The Scout, which I had somehow never seen before. That was one of those movies where, like, when you were a kid and you'd go into Blockbuster Video, you'd always like see the VHS cover for The Scout, and I just never bothered to rent it. That one was fine. I tried to watch Cobb with Tommy Lee Jones 3 different times, and I fell asleep each one of those 3 times. So I think I'm giving up on that one. But no, a lot of these were movies that I had seen before. But a movie like The Scout I had never seen before. What were some other ones that I hadn't seen before? I don't know.
I watched Major League 3, and I didn't even like.
Oh wow!
With Scott Bakula, I couldn't believe that thing existed.
I saw the movie in theaters whenever that came out. It must have been like 98 or 99 or 2000. I remember seeing that in theaters, and that was the first movie that I saw in theaters where I was like, that movie was bad. Like, when you were a kid, like you go to the theater and like every movie was great. I came out of that one and be like, all right, like that was the first bad movie I've ever seen.
And dude, I've been talking about this on the podcast, but baseball movies were huge. Like if you think about like Sandlot, League of Their Own, there were just so many. Well, now it's all football movies, man.
Yeah.
Like everything on Friday Night Lights. Like there's all these football movies have come out now, and I think baseball sucks, and football is now America's sport. And with everything happening in baseball, like there's not going to be any more baseball movies coming out anytime soon.
It's too bad.
Yeah, and Netflix has all these great things. I watched this thing about the top quarterback and like, these guys who like, are in college and get another shot up because they screwed up somewhere else. Like, I don't know, I just feel like football's the way. Maybe the NBA will, and we had Space Jam all those years ago, Blue Chips and, for the love of the game and all that stuff. But like, I don't know. I just feel like baseball movies are slowly dying, and the football ones are coming along. Are you?
I think just real quick, I think baseball movies translate better though for some reason. Maybe it's just that everyone's trying to copy Friday Night Lights, and I really liked Friday Night Lights. I like the show and the movie, but everyone's just kind of trying to copy that same angle. I think that maybe they need to move on, but like baseball movies just seem more fun than football movies. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the smaller team. Maybe it's the fact that you can show personalities a little bit more. But I've always preferred baseball movies to football movies. But that might just be me. I don't know.
Yeah, Any Given Sunday or Bull Durham. I guess. Yeah, maybe
Right.
maybe there's something there.
Yeah.
Are you a mob? Any in the mob movies or anything like that?
Yeah, I like Goodfellas. I see you've got the poster up there. I watched The Irishman when that came out. And I actually, a lot of people seem to like criticize that. And yeah, it was probably a little bit too long, but I actually really liked that movie. I watched it all in one shot, which other people I know broke it up into 2 parts and everything. But no, I'm into the mob movies. Goodfellas is probably my favorite of all time. But no, I mean, even like Bronx Tale, I think is really good. I was watching, I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, The Flamingo Kid. It stars Kevin Dillon. It's set in the 60s, but it wasn't very good. And after watching it, I turned to my wife. I was like, that was like the Bronx Tale, but take out like everything interesting that happens in the Bronx Tale. But the Bronx Tale growing up was one of my favorite ones as well.
If you ever get a chance, go to Vegas. Maybe there'll be a football game in Vegas.
Right.
You got to go to the Mob Museum, dude. It was the best. Like I love to gamble, but I went to the Mob Museum and the Tim Burton Neon Museum.
Yeah.
And like they had all the old stuff that like used to be up in Vegas, like the guitars from Hard Rock. But I did. They're right near each other, too. You can walk to them. Awesome. Yeah, the Mob Museum, awesome, and they have a little what do they call where you can drink in the basement down there? It's like
a speakeasy.
Speakeasy, like all prohibition style. It's definitely like worth the trip. It's like $25 or whatever, but totally worth it.
No,
all right. Cool. All right, so we wrap up the show usually with musings, something I like to do on the air, but so ketchup on a hot dog, in or out on that?
I'm in on ketchup on a hot dog. I think that people judge other people's food tastes too much. I think that everyone should be able to decide for themselves what they want to put on a hot dog or what they want to put on pizza or whatever it is. I don't know where this ketchup shaming came from. I personally, I mean, I don't know where you stand on this, but ketchup and hot dogs, that seems to go together for me. Ketchup is the second most popular condiment in the United States. I'm not sure when it became for children. Personally, I'm not putting ketchup on chicken nuggets. I'm not putting ketchup on a steak. I'm pretty much strictly putting ketchup on hot dogs and hamburgers. I don't even like them that much on fries, but in on ketchup on a hot dog.
Now you dip like, barbecue sauce or sweet and sour, right, on the nuggets and all
nuggets, that? Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll go, barbecue sauce, honey mustard. I even like sweet and sour sauce and McDonald's, the hot mustard. But I just never associate ketchup and chicken nuggets. That just seems like an odd combination.
What about eggs? Like ketchup and eggs. That's kind of how I roll.
I'll put ketchup on eggs. Like some jalapeno ketchup. I will usually see. I've got a weird egg eating method. I learned this from my grandfather, where I like a yolky egg. I like an over medium egg, but I don't like the yolk to spill out. So I'll eat the white around the yolk, and then I'll just pop the yolk in my mouth. My friends call it like an egg gusher. That's my method on it.
I like that.
Yeah. Yep.
The old egg gusher.
Yep. The old egg gusher.
All right. So dude, I went on a ride for lobster rolls. I live on the North Shore now. I live in Peabody, but I can get to Gloucester in like 15 minutes now. Right. So I just put out a tweet. Hey, I want hot buttered lobster rolls because I don't want mayo on my lobster roll. I found a great place, but are you a hot buttered or mayo lobster roll? And do you even like lobster?
I do like lobster. I'll go for either. I think that mayo's the more common one, so I'll usually just get the mayo lobster roll. I don't like mayonnaise unless it's in some sort of like chicken salad, macaroni salad, potato salad, or like lobster salad, basically, which is what a lobster roll is. But I actually don't have a real preference on that. But most times, I think, especially since it's a summer food, I'll get the cold lobster roll rather than the hot one.
Hot butter all day, son. People are checking in on it. See, it's like these are the stuff people want to talk about. The Patriots.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It's like I forgot about that. We should have just started with this. Sour Patch Kids cookies. Is this something that you've tried? And is it real?
It is real. I try it. Me and my friends do this like Doug's Buds thing where I go over to my friend's house and we all try a bunch of weird food, like all the stuff that you see at the grocery store where you're like, who the hell would ever buy that? That's
like
me.
Vanilla Coke or vanilla orange Coca-Cola.
Right. Yeah. All the like, I can't even like right now. There's actually in Australia, there's a Mountain Dew Dorito, which I might have to order off of eBay just to try it. But Sour Patch Kids cookies were bad. They were not as bad as I thought they were going to be, but like those like old Juju fruit candies that were like the hardest gummy that you could. That was like the texture of the Sour Patch Kid on the cookie. I think that baking a Sour Patch Kid just makes it really chewy. So that was actually the worst thing about it. But I wouldn't recommend it. But if you want to try it, it's not the worst thing you've ever tasted in your life.
I feel like Doug's Buds might be better than the male Doug.
I know, right? Yeah. I've actually been doing some solo Doug's Buds during the quarantine where I've got my whole setup behind me here and putting it up on YouTube. I haven't put out a new one for a couple of weeks now because I've been busy with some other stuff. But yeah, Doug's Buds might be the brand. That might be the real brand.
I might have to bring Doug's Buds on a segment and play some Bob Marley.
Absolutely.
We'll get that going. And it sounds like a new feature we can add to the show. And all right, this is a big one for me. I saw you chirping with somebody about straws recently, but plastic or paper straw? I'm out on paper straw. I'll do it if I have to.
Right.
But I don't know. I've been thinking about it. Like, I really do only use a straw when it comes to like fast food or something like that, or a drink. That's really it. A booze. That's it. Pretty
much. Yeah. So definitely plastic straws over paper straws. I know the environmental impact of it isn't great. Some of the other ones, like the compostable straws that feel like plastic, those are better even than the paper ones, which just dissolve in the drink. And like, you might as well not have a straw at that point for me, because the other thing with me on straws is I usually have them in an iced coffee. And if I'm going to Dunks or if I'm going to Mary Lou's or something, I ask for the larger straw because I can stir the bottom of the coffee a little bit better to pick up the sugar or the mocha or whatever that's in there. You can't do that with a paper straw. So I don't know. Yeah, I'm 100% on the plastic straws, but yeah, I rarely will have a straw if I'm at home. Right now I'm drinking a smoothie, so I've got a straw with that. But plastic straws. And like I said, I know the environmental impact, but until they come up with something better than paper straw, I'm out on those.
All right, Doug, quarantine. This is how it all ends. What shows are you currently watching?
Almost nothing. I've been on a YouTube kick, just like watching like bizarre little documentaries on YouTube. But I turned to my wife the other day. I was like, I think I've watched all of YouTube at this point. I think I'm just done with YouTube. I've reached the end of YouTube. So I have to find something else. We've watched Ozark. We were watching Curb for a while until that ended. But no, I've got to find something else. I've got to go on a hunt for something. But the only thing that I'm watching on my own right now is I'm just plowing through those baseball movies, basically.
I watched the Netflix original series this week called LA Originals.
Okay. And
it's about the tattoo artist of the Cypress. And they did everybody, like Eminem, you name it. LA Originals. It was about 90 minutes. Really good. Like if you get a show. And then my favorite show during quarantine has been Little Dicky. Dave is the name of the show. But Little Dicky the rapper.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about this.
Dude, 10 episodes, 30 minutes long. You can watch it with the wife. You'll laugh. You'll feel uncomfortable. You'll crack up. It's about a Jewish rapper. Like it's like so good that it's on FXX or Hulu. Maybe you can find it on YouTube if you're scrolling the other. What's your go-to snack right now in quarantine?
I've actually been trying to eat healthier right now because I treated the beginning of quarantine like it was like a free-for-all and that like food didn't have calories and all that stuff. So I've been trying to cut back on carbs quite a bit, but so like edible cookie dough has been the constant throughout quarantine, where I've just been kind of snacking on that, whether it's the Ben and Jerry's one that comes in a little bag, whether it's like a one that you kind of dig out a little bit more. This time at the grocery store, I bought, it's like the pre-made cookie, like the ones that you can put in the oven, but it's also edible. So I've just been like having one of those every once in a while. And You mentioned the LA original. I actually hadn't heard of that, but one thing that people don't know about me is I actually do have quite a few tattoos.
No shit.
Yeah, I've got a panther right there. I've got all this stuff up here.
That's the emo pop punk, man.
I've got a lot of the old school tattoos up here. Yeah, basically like from like I'm like the business tattoos like Kevin Durant. Basically like from my sleeves up and then down to my thighs is just like sort of covered, but nothing else.
Dude, all right, ready for this? Because I don't know if Nesson will approve this one or not. You should be like with like Patrick Chung and like all these guys. Maybe have like like the tattoo crew or something like that.
I know. I've actually thought about doing that before. The whole kicker controversy might make it a little bit different. But yeah, no, just figuring out why guys got what they got and how they got it and who they got it from and all that stuff. It would definitely be a cool little feature for sure.
All right, two more. What's your favorite frozen food?
Favorite frozen food? I guess ice cream. That counts, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Best ice cream place is Crescent Ridge in Sharon. That's where I grew up, or that's where I kind of
no bubbling.
No, I'm a Crescent Ridge guy, and right now, people out there, Crescent Ridge has like the best setup right now for drive-through ice cream. We've been twice, and it's like it's seamless, it's quick. They get your ice cream fast. It's super safe. So Crescent Ridge and Sharon, go for a drive and get it. It's worth the drive.
Well, I once did the play-by-play for Sharon High School. Well, I went to Sharon High School. I was the play-by-play announcer for King Philip.
Oh,
Sharon was not good.
No, Sharon's only good at tennis.
Wow, but they were good, I guess, a few years ago, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I couldn't believe it. I think they like went to a Super Bowl or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, Sharon actually won the state championship one year in whatever their division was or whatever. But it was like this one crazy 1 year blip. And now they've gone back to like there was during the years when I was covering Sharon sports for the Sharon Advocate right out of college, they went like 3 seasons without a win. Yep. So it was shocking.
Oh yeah, they were bad. Oh yeah, no, I remember.
Won.
I remember like everyone could hear me in the play-by. Like, hey, what the hell was that kind of play? Like, I was just like, what the hell is going on here? But yeah, King Philip was like a monster. Like they would just like,
oh yeah,
like 8 coaches above, like calling plays down. The quarterback was in the shotgun position. I was like, I played ball. Like I snapped a little bit. Like, dude, these guys were like running full shifts. Like I just couldn't believe how like organized that King Philip. I think Zoe's kids now there. I think
the Hawkmock League became a little bit crazy at one point because like it used to be like pretty fair as far as like it was Foxborough and King Philip and Mansfield and Attleboro and everything. But at a certain point, like the teams like KP just got way better than Sharon, to the point where they did have to split it up a little bit. When I was in Sharon High School, Lofa Tutupu played at King Philip.
Yep.
He was the quarterback as a senior when I was a freshman. We had Roland James' son on our team, Roman James, and he was good. But I mean, he didn't make the NFL as a linebacker like Lofa Tutupu did. So Lofa was like the most dominant high school player I ever saw.
And it's funny thing, Wiggy, same thing. Quarterback at East Boston, goes to junior college, goes to Marshall, and then goes to Georgia and plays with Quincy Carter.
Right.
And somehow won a Super Bowl with the Patriots. Familiar. I think he did. He did one here. Final one here. What's the most obscure purchase you've made in quarantine?
Wow, that's a really good question. I mean, it might have been Sour Patch Kid cookies, quite honestly. It might have been Sour Patch Kid Chips Ahoy. Other than that,
so I'll let you think. I did Instacart, and I'm like, all right, is this lazy of me? Like, I just didn't want to, but I never have done it before, and I did Instacart. It all came. They gave me an extra bag of like. So if you didn't know, I'm out on salad. So they gave me avocados. They gave me a head of lettuce and a bag of like baby spinach. And I'm like, who's messing with me? Like, who gave me this extra baggage? Either someone didn't get their bag or they're like, oh, that's Joe Murray. We know he doesn't like salad. Here we go. So it happens every once in a while. Hey, dude, does it? So you can think of that's probably it, right? The cookies.
It's got to be. I mean, that's the craziest thing that anyone like. I've ordered like energy drinks off Amazon. I've ordered some clothes, but no, otherwise like nothing super crazy. I've ordered some stuff for my daughter, but yeah, I mean, Sour Patch Kid Chips Ahoy. That's on another level, I'd say.
Do you ever go out and people are like, hey, you're Doug Kyed from Nesson? Does it ever happen?
It does. It's always kind of. It's always kind of uncomfortable. Like I love when people do it because it makes me feel good and everything. But then it always makes me feel like, all right, I have to like watch what my behavior is like when I'm out because people actually might know who I am. Like, obviously I'm not gonna be like an asshole to anyone or anything, but like, yeah, what the weirdest time was recently, it was right during the beginning of this quarantine. And like, I had a mask on at Big Y. I came out of the parking lot, like took the mask off. Someone was like, "Oh, hey, Doug, I like your stuff." I'm like, dude, I was just wearing a mask. Like, what's happening right now?
Yeah, I always get, "Hey, what's up, Jim?" I'm like, no,
Nope, close.
not because they just assume they see a big guy, Big J.
Right.
It's like, no, not close. I'm like, you're close on the name. And but yeah, Doug, when things get settled down, you got to come to a wrestling event with us because,
for sure.
like, dude, I don't know how to tell you this, but like, we are like rock stars. Like, we go there and it's like they don't even mention like, oh, the radio station. No, it's just like, oh, you guys are huge wrestling fans. Like I'm taking pictures with like people and their babies. Like, what am I doing here? But yeah, like it's so much fun. We get a suite. We do it all up.
Welcome,
We can social distance. It could go. It could be a blast, man. So
something similar to that, real quick. There's this pizza place in Stoughton that I go to all the time called Town Spa Pizza.
Man, it's the greatest pizza joint I've been to. Yeah.
The funniest encounter with like people recognizing who I was at Town Spa because they saw me on TV at Town Spa and were like, "Oh, that guy comes to Town Spa all the time." It wasn't like, "Oh, Doug Kyed from Nesson's at Town Spa." It's like the guy who comes to Town Spa is on TV right now.
It's like in Tommy Boy, do you guys want this or Gladiators? Right. Tommy Boy with the suit, Gladiator. We want Gladiators. Yeah, that guy who comes. Yeah, that's the guy who comes in. It was just. No, trust me. I every year I order a like a prime rib for like the holiday or whatever. The place. They'll write something like they'll write Felger sucks or like something every year. It's like I always get like last year it was like Bankroll Boys. Thank you. I'm like, oh, thank you. Like whatever. But so every year I'm like, what are they gonna write this year? It's just always
awesome.
It's always something. But he is the world famous Doug Kyed. He works for Nesson. Right. You can check out all the stuff. So you guys, I mean, what are they gonna? They're gonna let the players in the facility, but you guys don't know, right? At this point,
I have no idea. I somehow doubt that we're going to be let in the locker room unless this thing like really goes away, unless the summer really kicks this thing. I mean, you can quarantine players. You can try to test them as often as possible, but can you really test 65 media members who are going to be in the locker room every Wednesday? I don't know. We'll see. I'm hoping for it, but I'm willing to kind of zig and zag however they decide to play it.
All right, he's Doug Kyed of Nesson at Doug Kyed. You can write to him about any of the things that you heard on this interview today, and of course, you can go to Spotify, YouTube, and iTunes. So if you missed any of this, go back. You can also listen to any previous episodes as well. That's it for me today. I'm doing Toucher and Rich all week, so I have a 4:30 wake up call every day.
Ooh.
And I'm doing this at noon. But hey, I love it. I'm getting paid. I'm actually getting paid to go to work. So like I'll take it.
Right?
Yeah, I'll take anything I can at this moment. But I'll be back tomorrow. Mike O'Brien from 98.5 The Sports Hub will be my guest. Thanks again for Doug Kyed for joining us. I'll say goodbye to you guys for tomorrow. It's Joe Murray just sitting there. I'll see you guys tomorrow.